Hey, how's it going, everyone? Here I'm trying to make a bowl using our lathe at home. I'm using the bowl gouge to create stair steps so that I can make a rounded bottom for the bowl. I'm cutting inward as far as I want the base to be, and then slowly moving outward so that I can form the shape that I want. Using the bowl gouge to cut these stair steps to me is the easiest way to create a rounded bottom for the bowl. And then when I get to the height that I want of the bowl, I switch to the spindle gouge so that I can smoothen out all the stair steps. As you can see, it's a much easier process, and the spindle gouge is excellent to create that smooth, rounded bottom that I want. So it doesn't take too long to smooth out what is there. I just need to make sure I'm in the right shape that I want. Right here I'm cutting a design for the top of the bowl. I have a little lip on it that I wanted to make, and now I'm feeling the bowl to make sure that I have all the rough edges out as much as possible. I will have to still smooth it out later. So I'm going to remove this piece of wood from the and flipping it around so the bottom of my bowl will be in the chuck. And then I have to be so careful to make sure that there's little to no wobble when I put it back in the chuck. I'll use the tailstocks to help me level out the piece of wood, but I need to make sure it's tight in there, into the chuck. So you see I have the tailstock secured into the piece of wood. So now I tested to see if it's wobbling, but it's really good right now. So I'm going to use the parting tool to part my bowl off from the other side of the wood. Now when I'm parting, I try to make sure I have enough space to cut through to the other side. So what I'm doing here is creating a wider gap between the two pieces so that my parting tool doesn't get stuck in the channel. So I'm trying to make it wide enough so that about two widths of the parting tool, so I can have enough room to cut both sides. So sometimes it'll get stuck in there if you don't cut it wide enough, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm cutting it straight across so there's no bulges. And there it is. See the black ring around the top of the bowl? That's from the parting tool getting so hot that it burns part of the wood. Now here I'm going to gouge out the center using the bowl gouge, doing a push cut to the center. Now as you get closer to the center, you're going to have to go a little bit slower till you get to the middle. So I'm using the bowl gouge, riding the bevel down to the center, and then I'll be using a pull cut rather, to do the same thing except from the center outward. Right now I'm just removing material as much as I can to get to the depth that I want. Every so often I'll stop and measure the depth to see how far I'm going, and so I don't go too far and it cuts through the bottom. So right here I'm using the round nose paper to smoothen out the sides and the bottom of the bowl. This is a good tool to use when you want to smooth out all the lines and bulges in your work. So you can either push or pull this tool, no matter which way you go. I'm taking out material as well, but I just want to make sure that I don't go too far down. I'm taking out material from the bottom and then smoothing out the top. Just have to be very careful, because when I was doing this on another bowl, it just cracked. So I'm being very gentle with this, smoothing out the top area and the corners to make them smooth. And then the next step is to sand. So what I'm doing here is using the drill while spinning the bowl, and this works out great for sanding. It comes out much smoother without too much lines from the sanding, and the inside works out perfect. So I'm using a 60 grit paper to start off with, just to get all the rough edges and spots smoother. I also have to remove that burnt spot that the parting tool created, so I sanded that out. And then here, what I'm doing is, you see the little channel that I created as a design? I'm using a wire, inserting it into the channel and letting the bowl turn, and it's burnishing inside the channel. You can see the smoke coming off of it, and you can see that it's turning black. So that's a little trick you can do to add an accent to your piece. And now, to put the final touches on it, I'm using a 240 grit sandpaper just to finish it off, smooth it out, and it will be ready to go. If you like this or any of our other videos, please like and subscribe. Aloha!